So while you're all getting some refreshments, I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask, do we have a quorum now for this meeting? Okay, we do have a quorum. That's good. Anybody have any conflicts related to anything on this agenda? It's not very long, so it shouldn't be any conflicts out there. Okay, good. Thank you. Now, again, we will take action on the minutes of the October 24th meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Rich. Anybody else? Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Any public comment? Yeah, okay. All right. So we have Tim and Michelle back in the room to give us a summary of the 2021-22 audit report. Take
Okay,
it away.
we have the PowerPoint up. Tim Morgus and Michelle Hook with me today. We're going to go through this briefly. Some of you have heard our presentation, so it's not much more exciting the second time around. We do have some pens to try to jazz up the whole thing, but I'm not sure. The pens are nice. The highlighters, let's just say they'll be the highlight of the day. Communication to those charged with governance, we'll go over that. I have some required communication. Single audit financial report, we'll go over some highlights, and the 990 as well. So on the next page, there's the communications. We did an audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and the uniform guidance because you expend more than $750,000 during your fiscal year. We have to do an audit to comply with federal guidelines. So significant accounting policies, you did have one significant accounting policy this year related to the lease standard. The lease standard required that you show an amount equal to the right to use the asset and show an amount for the operating leases payable for the future. So you'll see that when we get through the financial statement presentation. Accounting estimates, all financial statements have estimates, but there are no significant estimates we want to point out. No significant disclosures we want to point out. No difficulties encountered in performing the audit. No corrected or uncorrected misstatements as a part of the audit, which is important because the financial statements were correct when we came in the door. So that's good news to somebody who's looking at the financial statements throughout the year. So no disagreements with management. We'll obtain a management representation letter at the end of the audit, just simply saying that management agrees with the financial statements and has told us everything to the best of their knowledge and belief. No consultation with other independent accountants about a reporting matter, or we made no arrangements with management prior to our retention. So that's the high point. I think I timed that pretty well. Michelle's going to go over the single audit report. Michelle?
Yes, thank you. I made it all the way around. All right, the single audit financial statements, the independent auditors report, if you look at that report compared to last year's report, it is reordered slightly based on the standards that we have to follow as auditors. Your opinion paragraph is now the first thing that you see, and you don't have to go looking for it on page 2 or 3 of your report there. You did receive an unmodified opinion. That is a clean opinion and the type of opinion you do want to receive as an entity. So that is good. Part of the financial statements is also your management's discussion and analysis. This is like a plain English version of the statements that fall behind that. So if you just want a quick kind of read on that, that's a good place to start. The financial statements themselves, we will look at some pictures of the statements, but this is a brief summary. Tim mentioned a new standard that you had to adopt, GASB 87. It's on leases. What that standard did here is require you to record a right to use asset, which is just above the total the total assets there. So at 6/30, 2022, it was $354,000. It's the present value of your future lease payments. And currently that is just the space that you're in now. Once you have the right to use your new lease space, that number will go on there as well. It'll be quite larger than what you currently see here. And then total assets was about $12.5 million at your year end. The next statement there, if we could go on to the next page. Your liabilities section, again, about 12 million in liabilities. You will see that your accounts payable is up a little bit from last year, but that really does correspond to an increase in your AR as well. And that's just based on how your federal funding works. When you spent the money, you're going to get the money. So those kind of go hand in hand. So we're going to go ahead on to the next statement. There we go. It's a statement of revenues, of expenditures, and changes in your fund balance. Again, this is compared 2020 to 2021 there. For 2022, you were about $12.7 million in revenues. The biggest change there, that contributions line, you're up about $1 million there, and that is from your broadband project. So then your expenditures are correspondingly also $12.7 million, and you'll see in the contract expenditures that is also related to your broadband expenditures. So your P&L, or your change in net assets, is zero, as it is consistently each year. Going forward on your government-wide statements, you will see a change in your net assets related to this lease standard and the right to use asset and the lease liability. Oh, we can go to the next one now. You're good. All right. So then your footnotes. There's not a whole lot of excitement going on in your footnotes. Footnote 2 does tell your reader that you did adopt that standard of GASB 87. There are some other pending statements that are out there. None of those should impact you greatly, if at all. So there's really nothing exciting on the horizon, which is good, and that's good. And footnote 9 does get into more detail on your leases payable. So that's a little bit more expanded disclosure regarding your lease. And it does disclose that you do have entered into a new lease for new space. The supplemental information, the CFA, that's your schedule of expenditures of federal awards. For this year, you did have to, we had to test highway planning and construction, as well as the Appalachian Area Development, and that includes your shale power grant funding, which is the bulk of that particular set of expenditures. Last year, you did have a finding on that related to reporting and subrecipient monitoring, but for this year, you did not have that finding, so that has been corrected, so that is good.
Yeah. For those of you that have been on the board before, that finding last year, sometimes we get grief whenever we don't find something. So I just want to point out that we had a finding last year and it was addressed this year, and so I think it really related to the new money that was coming in from every different direction, and it was quickly fixed when we pointed it out. So.
And then as part of the single audit, there's 2 other reports under uniform guidance. There's a report on financial reporting and on compliance, and those were both unmodified as well. So both clean opinions there. So that's good news as well. The last document, just to briefly talk about, is for the corporation. You do have an I-90 that you have to file. There were no changes to the IRS form. It was filled out substantially. It has been in the past. That form has been extended to May 15th. However, we will not wait till then. Once this meeting's over, a few documents need signed and whatnot, and we can get that filed for you all. As part of that, you'll also receive what we call as a public disclosure copy. On Schedule B, it lists your contributors' names and addresses. This public disclosure copy will remove those 2 things. So if someone were to come in and ask to see that document, that is the document you want to give them, because those names and addresses are not subject to public disclosure. That is the end of the presentation itself, but we would be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Does anybody have any questions? We are certainly glad to have boring footnotes. Any questions? Okay, if not, we are
Thanks.
very
Thank you, everyone.
grateful for your help, and thank you, Margaret, for all the wonderful work that went into this. I know it's sometimes it feels unglamorous, but we're absolutely grateful that it comes out the way it is, and it was boring. And we'll see if we can work on getting you a holiday, Tim. Yeah, auditor's holiday. He wants an auditor's day. was looking for that. Thank you both. Okay, let's go for the long-range plan and public participation update with Dom and Rhonda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll get things kicked off. Wanted to give you an update on where we're at in the development of our long-range plan. Next slide. Okay, so policy level reviews, the long-range plan, vision, goals, and strategies were reviewed by the county planning directors and our policy committee to determine the need for any updates. That initial review is completed, and we'll be looking to finalize these at some upcoming meetings. Work group meetings. We worked through 3 long-range plan development work groups. This includes SPC staff, PennDOT district and central office staff, your county planners, and others. We utilize this work group to review current conditions and status of performance measures and develop long-range needs and candidate projects. SPC will conduct screening and consistency criteria analysis to review the candidate projects and provide input to the work group. So there's one work group per PennDOT district, districts 10, 11, and 12 within our region. There will be between 3 to 4 rounds of work group meetings to come to a consensus on the draft project list for the long-range plan. A parallel effort with the transit operators is ongoing, with the first set of meetings being wrapped up soon. Public participation panel and public meetings, we have completed the initial PPP meetings, 10 total, 1 in each county. Rhonda will talk a little bit more about that after my slides. And just, the remaining activities there, once we have our work group meetings, finalize the project list, we'll go to our Transportation Technical Committee, TTC, and Transit Operators Committee for their approval. We'll conduct the federal analysis that's required in terms of environmental justice and air quality conformity, all in the hopes of bringing you a long-range plan. We'll have our 30-day public comment period, of course, bringing you an updated long-range plan in June of next year. Next slide. Here are the focus areas being discussed in our first round of meetings. Asset management and safety continue to be key focus areas for the region. With additional federal funds for bridges under the bipartisan infrastructure law, we expect to have a significant number of bridges listed in our long-range plan, as there are in the TIP, quite a few bridges. Regionally, 14% of our bridges are in poor condition and 55% are only in fair condition. So near term, medium term, long term, we still have work to do in this area. You can see several other focus areas listed here. The process is collaborative and consensus driven. Next slide, please. So we update the long-range plan every 4 years. It's a 25-year lookout. The long-range plan is a long-term view of the investments in our region out to 2050. Within this time frame, a conservative estimate of the revenue that is reasonably expected to be available is developed. Projects put on the plan cannot exceed this amount in what's referred to as fiscal constraint. The time frame is broken down into 3 stages, and funds are assigned to each stage. Stage 1 is the current TIP, 2023 to 2026, 4 years. In this time frame, we have a very detailed program, of course, that you all know about. Stage 2 is the next 8 years after the end of the current TIP. In this stage, we include the total remaining on the project beyond the TIP years that are already in the TIP, and total cost of projects set to start in this 8-year period. This stage does not include minor projects, and it does include in some investment category line items. In the third stage, only large investment projects are identified in the last 15 years, 12 to 15 years. And large amounts of funding are shown residing in the investment line items. The project scopes and cost estimates are more conceptual in that last stage. Next slide. So there's the up-to-date vision statement that's on the screen there. To achieve this vision, Again, the long-range plan includes a list of projects currently within fiscal capacity and projects beyond fiscal capacity. So at our public participation panel meetings, we have been asking for feedback on what long-range emphasis areas are important to the folks that come to these meetings. So I'll turn it over to Rhonda now, who will provide a summary of our first round of panel meetings. Rhonda?
Thanks, Dom. As Dominic mentioned, I'm going to provide a brief summary of and touch on the participation, the long-range plan dot exercise, the evaluation form feedback, and wrapping up with a look of public participation for 2023. Round one was kicked off in Washington on October the 25th, and we held PPP meetings for 7 weeks, wrapping up with Butler County as a virtual meeting on December the 7th. We managed to get all 10 PPPs in and hosting actually 3 in 1 week, so we were busy. All dates for the PPPs are displayed on the slide. We hosted 4 virtual PPPs in Westmoreland, Allegheny, Beaver, and Butler. And we had 6 in-person PPP meetings in Washington, Fayette, Greene, Armstrong, Lawrence, and Indiana. We had 128 participants in all the 10 counties together, collectively. And again, they were a collaboration of folks, commissioners, county, local, nonprofit organizations, employers, and public. It was great to see everyone. We promoted the meetings on social media, and the virtual recordings can be found on the SPC YouTube station, or channel, I'm sorry, and the website, our SPC's website. Next slide. During the PPP meetings, whether it was virtual or in person, participants were asked 2 questions. Virtually, they were asked 2 polling questions, but if it was in person, they actually were given 10 dots to place on the long-range plan board in relation to the goals and the strategies. So to the left is the participants' answers to which goal do you feel is most urgent for the region to address in the long-range plan, and it's broken down into counties. And to the right, we asked them to which strategy or strategies do you feel is most urgent for the region to address in the long-range plan. And as you can see, those were the answers that the community members had given. I do have this information broken down by counties. If you would like that, please send me an email and I'll be happy to send that over to you. Next slide. So during the in-person participation meetings, I was able to collect 13 evaluation forms, and here's what the participants had to say. They felt that they were able to provide input effectively. The information was understandable. It was done in a timely manner, and they felt that the format was appropriate. They were also, they gave some comments, and they were happy with the explanation of SPC's role. They thought the meeting wasn't too long, and the meeting was complete, and all the staff knew what we were talking about. So that's always a good thing. Things to improve. They asked for us to create a cheat sheet as far as the acronyms. They also made, they said that this, make sure the space meets the size of the group that everyone can be comfortable. In that regard, we actually have already started the ball rolling. In Fayette County, we've already talked about the next space that we're going to have the PPP in 2023, and also that's been approached in Armstrong County. And then also they asked for the adjustment of time schedule to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to ask questions. So it's great feedback, and we take all the comments into consideration when we're planning for 2023. Next slide. So round 2 of PPPs will take place in May of 2023. As we look to 2023 and the new year, I ask all commissioners a favor. If everyone can review the public participation panel list and make modifications necessary to add new or also add the existing if you choose. And then we wanted to have that confirmation in January. And once those lists are confirmed, if they could send over the list to us, we need that official list. And then with February, having a panelist reappointment or new appointments of, of panels. And to do that in a meeting, whether it's virtual or in person, in late February, early April. And then to make sure that we are initiating the conversation so we can increase our participation at our participation panel meetings come in May. We can use 2022's as a base year to measure the productivity for 2023 and making changes and modifications as we go to develop the most productive participation possible. Coming together and creating a plan together, we can increase our participation and strengthen our partnerships within our communities. Together we can be stronger, we can reach more people, and we can grow our future for participation moving forwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you send out the list of the panel members to us yet? Okay, you have them. Okay, Mark says he has them. I'm sorry. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we had them so we could go over them.
But also we can do that if, you know, I can actually do that and send it out
Okay,
to everybody.
okay, thank you. That we will have it. Okay, are there any questions or comments or concerns on that? For Dom or Rhonda? Okay, hearing none, I think that we will move straight to Vincent.
Thank you very much, Madam
Uh-huh.
Chair. Just very briefly, I might take a few moments to provide everybody with an update on SPC's move. I'm learning more about contracting and office furniture than I ever thought I would, and so I figured I'd share with folks to let them know where we are with this. And we're working on the very small details at this point. We're talking about things like disposing of our furniture, installing our IT backbone in the new facility, looking at telephone service, all the details that can make or break the move. And so we're obviously hitting that very hard for the month of January. Clearly, we want this to be as little a disruption as possible. But let me bring up what the contractors have let us know. And given a number of supply chain issues around the country that we're all well aware of, it looks like the move is not going to be happening until February, end of February. Now we have a February 27th commission date, executive committee and commission date. And so what we're proposing, I think for the month of February, we will be working remotely. They can't find things like electric panels, and apparently that's a national shortage.
That is true. We are waiting for one.
Are you too?
Siemens,
Yeah.
yes, for our courthouse.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
it's apparently something across the country. So the installation of new electrical panels, and there are other issues, flooring issues and things of the sort, are pushing us back to the end of February. Given the February 27th date and that we do want to hold a meeting, both executive committee and commission meeting, and probably a policy meeting as well. And given that we had mentioned that we would be going out to the regions, to the counties throughout the region to start holding these meetings abroad, not just here in Allegheny County and in Pittsburgh, we're proposing to, with your permission, go to Butler County for the first county meeting in February. There are a number of facilities there that I think would lend themselves to this meeting. We'll certainly have a virtual option for those who can't travel, but we would really strongly like everyone to be there in person if they can be. Again, we'll find a place in Cranberry that is accessible to everyone, have the right virtual backbone. But we want to continue the pace of these meetings. I think these are very useful. There's a lot of good information that's shared. And again, we don't want the move to be disruptive in any way.
We might bribe you with dinner.
Okay. Okay, I'll take it. Any questions on that? Yes, sir. We're going to the Strip District. The terminal building at the very end has the auction house. So we'll be on the first floor. Apparently Dom used to work there.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they're
Okay.
right now in full construction. In fact, Margaret was getting texts or emails from the contractor about things like floor finishes and worried about the details of the windows. And we discovered that there are a number of still little areas of lead paint that need to be mitigated. Of course, it's an older building. All the details that you worry about when you're moving to a new house or a new facility. And in our case, I think it's going to, be a good move for the commission, for everyone, for all our stakeholders.
But the lease expires here
The lease is expired. Yeah, it will expire.
Right.
At the end of the month, at the end of January.
at the end of January. So
Yeah,
ergo
so
the
we
need
have
to
to-
work remotely. You have to go somewhere. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've been talking for
I've-
about 6 months, maybe
Yeah,
more.
I've been mentioning, yeah, but
Pretty much every meeting he gives an update.
no worries.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
any questions?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. We will even make sure we plow. We will plow the way for you. Or, we'll have an ice festival or something. That's about the time that we usually have our ice festival. So I'm sure we can find something fun. We'll make it fun, we promise. Okay. Anything else that anybody has for the good of the order that you'd like to discuss today? Other than getting you out of town and worrying about your shopping and other parties that we all need to get to, right?
I just wanted to mention that at 5:30, the rates go up at the garage if you're in the building because the Penguins game is on today.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
That means we better get out of here quick, right? All right. If there is nothing else, I guess we would then take a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, everybody, have a very joyous holiday and happy new year to all of you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.